Florida, often imagined as a land soaked in sunlight, dotted with the magic of theme parks and framed by coastlines that never seem to sleep. But take just a few steps away from Disney World or South Beach, and you'll find a side of Florida that's colder, quieter. Beyond all that glitz and brightness lies a collection of ghost towns and forgotten sites, silent monuments left behind by hurricanes, collapsed industries, and dreams that never came true. From modern neighborhoods abandoned overnight to ancient military forts crumbling with time, these places tell stories about the fragility of civilization in the Sunshine State. What towns are they? And what do they reveal about the power of nature and the fleeting nature of history? Seeing Orlando on this list might come as a surprise. When we think of ghost towns, our minds often drift to abandoned mining towns in the West or 19th century settlements lost to time. But one of Florida's most haunting ghost communities is hidden right inside Orlando, the city built on wonder and fantasy. The contrast is striking. In the middle of a city known for joy and light, there stands a completely dead complex, the Place at Ellaville. Built as a modern, upscale apartment community, it became a very real casualty of nature. After Hurricane Ian in 2022, severe flooding compromised the foundation to its core, rendering the buildings uninhabitable. Today, Ellaville sits frozen like a distorted time capsule. Damp carpets, the overpowering smell of mold, and most unsettling of all, personal belongings left behind in a rush. Children's toys, family photos, even dishes still in the sink, signs of a life cut off without warning. This was destruction overnight, a chilling reminder that natural disasters don't care how new a building is, and even the busiest cities can hide places as cold and empty as any desert ghost town. If Ellaville was taken by water, the story of Yukon and Jacksonville is one of erasure by military decision. Once a thriving community near the Naval Air Station Jacksonville, Yukon housed military families and base workers. But in the 1960s, the Navy made a drastic choice: expansion. The government invoked eminent domain, a powerful legal tool allowing them to seize property for public use. What followed was swift and merciless. Residents were forced out, and within months, homes, stores, even churches were reduced to rubble to make way for runways and hangars. Today, Yukon has been completely absorbed by the military base. No buildings remain, only the bitter memories of displaced families. A stark example of how military needs can erase the identity of an entire town. From a town taken by force, we move to the waters of Biscayne Bay, where the illusion of freedom stood on stilts. Stiltsville, off the coast of Miami, was a story of rebellion built above the waves. It began as an escape, even a hot spot for illegal parties during Prohibition, and eventually became a symbol of life lived outside the rules. This one-of-a-kind community grew with brightly colored stilt houses, eccentric outposts that often starred on Miami postcards. But built where the sea meets sky, they were always vulnerable to the wind and waves. And eventually, nature had its say. Hurricane Andrew in 1992 delivered a devastating blow, destroying most of the structures. Today, only 6 houses remain, fragile giants standing over the water like skeletal spiders. Protected now as a historic site, Stiltsville serves as a monument to human defiance, and how, in the end, nature always answers back. Meanwhile, in North Florida, there's a town called Ellaville, once the prototype of a company town, founded by the Pace family in the late 1800s. As with many towns of its kind, Ellaville truly lived and died by one thing: a single lumber mill. During its prime, Ellaville had it all: a mill, a church, a general store, a vital bridge, and even cultural festivals. But like every place dependent on a single resource, its fate was already written. Rapid deforestation drained the surrounding land of timber, and the final blow came in the form of a fire that destroyed the main sawmill. With its core industry gone and no materials left to rebuild, the town was quickly abandoned, leaving behind only stone foundations now consumed by the wild undergrowth of the Suwannee. From modern cities with ghostly shadows to a more traditional ghost town, we head to Brewster in Polk County, a textbook example of a true company town, founded in 1910. Brewster was a social experiment. A phosphate mining company didn't just provide jobs. It built the housing, ran the schools, offered transportation, and owned the stores. It was a self-contained, highly efficient community built entirely around one economic engine. For decades, Brewster thrived, becoming a model of industrial society. But that total dependency was also its biggest weakness. When phosphate demand dropped and the mine shut down, Brewster was evacuated, systematically. No one was allowed to stay. The company pulled out everything: jobs, services, support. What was left behind were rusting industrial machines, grand empty buildings, and silent streets. Brewster now stands as a haunting reminder that even towns once thought untouchable can vanish when their purpose disappears. While Brewster collapsed under the weight of economic change, the story of Eldora is different. Once known as an agricultural paradise, this town was ultimately defeated by the unforgiving climate of Florida. Eldora was famous for its orange groves, one of the state's top citrus exporters. But all of that ended with the Great Freeze of 1895. The disaster struck hard, freezing and killing nearly every tree. With no crops to harvest, the community quickly dissolved. Today, only 2 original buildings remain, one of them now a museum. Beyond that, Eldora's old cemetery has been reclaimed by the wilderness inside the Canaveral National Seashore. It stands as a quiet monument to how fragile farming and human settlement can be when nature turns against it. From frozen oranges, we head deeper into the heart of the Everglades, a place where entire communities once tried to stand against nature at its most extreme. The Everglades aren't home to just one ghost town, but several forgotten sites. Among the most notable is the original town of Flamingo, often referred to as the Lost City or simply the Ghost Village. Tucked deep in the wilderness, Flamingo was a fishing and farming settlement that battled swarms of mosquitoes, violent storms, and relentless isolation. The community hung on for years, but after Hurricane Donna in 1960, it finally gave in. When the National Park Service took over the region, Flamingo's fate was sealed, transforming it into a historical site now mostly reclaimed by the surrounding swamp. The battle against nature continues in the South, where one of Florida's most ambitious dreams ended in devastating failure. This is Okeelanta, a ghost town born from early 20th century optimism, one of the Everglades' earliest planned settlements, now completely gone. Okeelanta was built in swampland, with a grand vision of converting the Everglades into sugarcane fields and farmland. It embodied the bold spirit of Florida's 1920s boom. But that vision collapsed when the catastrophic Lake Okeechobee hurricane struck in 1928, flooding the region and killing thousands in nearby areas. The site now stands as a haunting reminder of how even the most confident human plans can be overwhelmed brutally by the forces of nature. From a large-scale disaster in Okeelanta, we shift to a quieter but equally heartbreaking story, Center Hill. Located in Sumter County, this small town didn't fall to a hurricane or a fire. It faded because of something far more subtle, a shift in logistics. Center Hill is a casualty of progress that passed it by. At its peak, the town thrived on local trade, powered by a railroad that ran straight through it. But when railway operators rerouted the line for better efficiency, Center Hill's lifeline was cut. Without the track, the economy dried up. What followed was a slow-motion collapse. Stores closed one by one, families moved away, and the population steadily declined. Today, what remains is a nearly empty downtown, where aging brick buildings stand like ghosts of a once bustling trade hub. Center Hill serves as a painful reminder of how infrastructure shapes community survival and how quickly a place can vanish when the route changes. As we leave behind tales of infrastructure collapse, we arrive in Olustee, a town whose past was built and eventually abandoned by war. This settlement grew around the site of the 1864 Battle of Olustee, the largest and most significant Civil War conflict in Florida. Despite its historical weight, the town struggled to grow in the years that followed. Unfertile soil and a remote location discouraged new settlers. Without major redevelopment, Olustee could very well find itself on Florida's growing list of ghost towns. Today, the site is preserved as a state historic park, its monuments and open battlefields standing as solemn reminders of the heavy cost of both victory and defeat. From past battlefields to the sparkling coastline of Tampa Bay, our journey takes a surprising turn. It may seem unlikely that a thriving city like Tampa could harbor ghost town remnants, but wait until you visit Fort Dade. Built on Egmont Key in the late 1800s, this massive coastal fort was constructed to defend Tampa Bay from potential invasion. But it wasn't war that ended its story, it was progress. As military technology rapidly advanced, Fort Dade became obsolete in a matter of years. Gradually abandoned, the remains of its stone structures and paved roads are now part of a nature preserve. It's a peaceful setting where towering defense architecture fades into the serenity of Florida's coastal landscape, a place where silence, not cannon fire, reigns. Crossing the peninsula from Tampa, we reach Fort Drum, a name rooted in conflict from the era of the Second Seminole War. Unlike the coastal defenses, Fort Drum was built deep inland, established to secure the remote, swampy frontier. The military outpost attracted settlers, who built a small community that relied on the fort for supplies and protection. But once the troops withdrew and the security vanished, civilian life became unsustainable in such a remote, flood-prone corner of Florida, cut off from growing trade routes and regional development. Over time, the community at Fort Drum faded into the Okeechobee Prairie. What remains are old graves and the faint trace of a life once tethered to the sound of marching boots and military drums. From physical fortresses to unseen defenses, we arrive now at Florida's oldest city, St. Augustine. As the oldest continuously inhabited European settlement in the United States, it's layered with a dark, storied past. Though vibrant and full of tourists, St. Augustine is widely considered one of the most haunted cities in America. Stories of the old Spanish prison, bloody battles, and tragedies at the St. Augustine Lighthouse has cemented this city as a hub for paranormal tourism, where the past quite literally refuses to stay silent, whispering through every alley and corridor. Now we sail south, far south, to the tip of the Florida Keys, and find ourselves in a different kind of haunted place, Key West. This cheerful island city has deep roots in shipwrecks, pirates, and doomed sailors. But make no mistake, Key West is not a ghost town in the traditional sense. There are no empty buildings or abandoned streets. Instead, it's a vibrant, colorful town where ghost stories are woven into the culture itself. The iconic Key West Cemetery, with its bizarre epitaphs, and the infamous legend of Robert the Doll have turned the island into a paranormal hotspot. Here, modern parties coexist with old spirits, creating a bizarre but fascinating blend of light and shadow that keeps visitors coming back. Our journey ends in perhaps the most unusual town of them all, Cassadaga. Like others on this list, it isn't abandoned, but in its own way, it is very much a ghost town. Founded by spiritualists from New York in 1894, Cassadaga remains an active, living community of mediums, healers, and clairvoyants. It's not a place left behind by misfortune, but a town that actively embraces mystery, selling it, preserving it, and thriving within it. In a sense, Cassadaga might be the only ghost town that wants to be haunted. These towns reveal one shared truth. Florida is not just a sun-drenched paradise. From modern neighborhoods abandoned overnight after Hurricane Ian in Orlando, to the silent phosphate pits of Brewster, the forgotten military forts of Fort Dade, and the ever-present spiritual hum of Cassadaga, these places sketch a deeper portrait of the state. They tell stories of resilience, of lives ultimately lost to the slow erosion of time, shifting economies, or the raw power of nature. In the end, these 15 towns, some physically abandoned, others spiritually burdened, stand as vivid reminders. Behind all the theme parks and postcard beaches, Florida's real history lives in its forgotten corners. A history of defeat, survival, and the lingering ghosts of ambition.